Hello everyone and welcome to the first annual Shoot4Change-a-Thon. I'm Sean Morgan.
And I'm Mabruk Ahmadine. Tonight we'll be talking to artists, leaders, and pioneers of the Shoot for Change movement. These people have founded non-for-profits, shared their stories through dance or literature, and traveled across the world to tell their stories.
But before we talk to our guests, you might be wondering what exactly Shoot for Change is. So here's some insight into what this organization is all about. Shoot for Change was founded on one simple idea: shoot local, change global. Founded as a hub for artists and activists to share their work, it has grown into an international movement for photographers, designers, artists, and anyone dedicated to sharing important stories.
Whether you're an amateur or a pro, whether you're sharing a story from your hometown or traveling the world, Shoot for Change wants to hear your story, amplify it, and help you change the world. And on Tuesday, April 10th, the Shoot for Change New York chapter is hosting a conference right here at Hofstra University. It is free and open to the public, so be sure to stop in and be inspired. Now that you know what we're all about, let's get this show started.
The first guest we're going to be talking to tonight has spearheaded the New York chapter of Shoot for Change. Let's take a look at the work she's done already and what she hopes to accomplish in the future.
My name is Ashley Iadanza, and I am starting up the New York chapter of Shoot for Change, and I am a Hofstra University alumni. I originally got involved with Shoot for Change because 2 years ago I studied abroad through Hofstra's Go in Rome program, and what we originally thought was going to be the trip of a lifetime, just lounging and exploring Italy, turned out to be a life-changing trip. And in the process, when we were prepping to go to Italy, we knew we'd be working with a nonprofit, but we didn't really know too much about it. Once we got to Italy, we met Andrea and Dario, and they brought us to a little village called L'Aquila, and it changed the 11 of us for the better. I found events for us to go and cover for the New York chapter of Shoot for Change through essentially a lot of Facebook stalking. If you go through the events on Facebook, you can go and find anyone because it's more open to the public, the events that they're putting on Facebook, and people that want their stories to be told. The benefits of being so close to New York City when you're doing a socially charged organization is we have so many different cultures and so many different walks of life and types of people. So a lot of opportunities are forged there. Another great reason of being so close to the city and why that's so helpful for us is because if you can't make it to a march or anything, fighting for the social justices of the world, if you can't make it to Washington, D.C., New York City is the second largest marches that you're gonna find. So a lot of people are gonna come and gather for all of those different things, and you're gonna get people that are having the opposing view trying to join the march. And a lot of what I found surprising, they wanted to come and they wanted to ask and walk along with the march and find out more and ask us questions and why do we feel so strongly about what we're doing. So as an objective party, and you're here to just cover the story, to watch those interactions happen is really impactful, and you try to capture as much of that as you can, and that can only happen in the world's arguably greatest city. I am so inspired by Shoot for Change because not only when we went to Italy were we so inspired by the passion that these people had that were doing it. They're not getting paid, they just love fighting for what they believe in and in their own subtle ways. They're not there because it's a trend or because it's cool to fight for that cause at the time. They are there when it's necessary for them to be there, and when the mainstream media lights go off on the cause or the situation, they will continue to tell the story, and they essentially take the baton and run with it as long as they can until justice is served for that particular cause, and I find that so inspiring.
Please welcome Ashley Iadanza.
Ashley, thanks so much for joining us today. My first question for you would have to be, could you expound a little bit on how your trip to L'Aquila inspired you?
Well, I think it inspired all of us that went the year that I went in such a different way. In the United States, we're so sheltered to natural disasters. We usually experience it from the comforts of our own living room and with that separation of our television screens. And we'll ultimately come together as a country and send down volunteers to help out. And when we went to L'Aquila, it had been almost a decade later after this devastating earthquake, and not much had been done to help put the city back together. So I think it motivated me, at the very least, to stop complaining about the state of the world on Facebook and to actually go out and do something about it.
That's great. Well, what lessons did you take for yourself after meeting the founders of Shoot for Change?
When I met up with Dario and Andrea, and for a brief moment we got to meet Antonio, who is the ultimate founder, I learned and was so impressed by how passionate they were and how driven. They're not doing it because it looks great on their resume, and they're not doing it because, you know, it's cool at the time to do it. They're doing it because they love it, and they're driven by their passion, and I can only follow suit and by their example.
So with so many passionate people within the organization, when you meet that many passionate people at one time, is that intimidating at first? Was it immediately welcoming? What sort of
When Antonio brought up the idea of starting up this New York chapter, when I was interviewing him for my independent study about a year or so ago, I never felt anything but excitement. You know, I had to meet up with a lot of lawyers and a lot of nonprofit owners to see what the process would be to have us become an official organization in the United States. And I've never for a moment felt anything but excitement and be driven. I met up with the original Shoot for Change New York chapter members, Paolo, Yelena, and Rodney. They were great, so felt nothing but support the entire time.
So after becoming significantly more prominent within the organization, are there any specific nuggets of wisdom that you've gained from that role?
I think it's to believe in the vision that you have for the organization, even when no one else seems to. In the beginning, the events that we were doing were not so glamorous. Sarah Whitman was someone who was with me, rain, sleet, or shine. She was covering those events with me and taking photos. And when it came time that I had to pass the baton onward, Sarah Schwartz was amazing as far as making this organization bigger than any of us, which is exactly what I wanted. So having that support system was really amazing.
That's awesome. Well, are there any upcoming events involving the New York chapter that you can share with us?
I think the next step for Shoot for Change New York is take all those that have been inspired either by this telethon or by the conference on Tuesday, and take the new blood, the old blood, the current blood, and bring us all together and see what we're passionate about and what stories we want to tell, and see where we can move forward from there.
That's great. Well, Ashley, it was great talking to you. Thank you so much for being here. Coming up, we have a live performance from Hofstra's Step Team, but first, let's find out what makes their dancing so unique and also so empowering.
Hi, I'm Kyla Cook, and I'm the Vice President of the Step Team. Stepping to me is not only a form of entertainment, but a huge part of our history as African Americans. Stepping originates from South Africa, where it was used as a means of communication and ways to just create music. However, during the slave trade, the Europeans wanted to get rid of as much of the culture as possible. So as a way to kind of keep a part of themselves intact, they would use stepping and creating beats with their body as a means of recreating those sounds and recreating that communication that they almost lost. Stepping is definitely a form of activism still today. It's one of those ones that's not as direct, say the Black Lives Matter movement. It's more so just a way for us to bring to light a history that was almost taken away from us. It's a way for us to connect with our ancestors in a sense. We're still using it today, we're still enjoying it today, and so on. We are the only step team on campus, so we're the only ones basically showcasing this amazing talent, this amazing feature in a sense. We have performed at the Black Student Union showcases, we have performed at Transcendence performances, we've performed at Amani performances, and then there's a lot of times where we just perform. Like, for example, our most recent performance was with Hofstra International Hint. They had International Day, and we were able to bring basically our African roots to that entire experience. I think it's very important for clubs to join these movements because, in a sense, it makes you well aware of the world around you. Getting involved with these socially active clubs is actually very easy. All it takes is going to a club fair. All it takes is looking at Get Involved HU online and seeing the different names of these clubs. There's many times where you'll see so many people of color, so many people of different diversities just chilling in the student center. Don't be afraid to walk up to one. More than likely, they know about some club on campus or something that you can get involved in. It's more about putting yourself out there, and then we'll take you the rest of the way. Like, show us you're interested, and then we'll show you that you can definitely be a part of whatever you want.
And now, here's a live performance from the Hofstra STEP team. Stick around. We'll be right back with activist Mario Murillo and artist Courtney Harmon after a quick commercial break.
Rituals are part of our tradition.
Everything you do is for a reason, even if you don't know the reason yet. Trust us.
This is how you become one of us.
Just keep quiet about this.
This is your priority now.
If you're not hurting, you're not going hard enough.
We need to see who really wants to be here.
The process creates a bond between Pledge Brothers.
Our next guest is Courtney Harmon, an artist studying with social practice queens to get her master's in fine arts. Using socially engaged art practices, her work focuses on environmental degradation and how it affects the local community. She's here today to talk about what she hopes to accomplish with her art and how others can get involved.
Welcome. So, the art you make is it's focused on community engagement and I believe activism. And what's the link between being an artist and also being an activist?
Yeah, a lot of people don't necessarily connect the two, but what I find is myself and a lot of other socially engaged artists, we see art really as a good way to communicate these more complex issues about ecology and urban planning and reform processes. So it's a lot more fun to look at a piece of art rather than a big peer-reviewed paper or something.
Right. And also, I understand that you're an MFA candidate for Social Practice Queens. And what originally made you interested in studying that?
Yeah, social practice is a really interesting blend of collaborative art and community engagement. So Social Practice Queens is a partnership between the Queens Museum and Queens College, and it's right in my hometown of Flushing, Queens, too. So a lot of the community work that I do with those institutional partners, it's a really great situation to be in.
Okay. Well, why did you choose to focus on environmental issues? And you said your hometown is Flushing, Queens.
So there are a lot of quality of life issues in Flushing specifically they all kind of come about because of the sewage infrastructure of all things. But I didn't even know about these problems we have with raw sewage going into Flushing Creek until I explicitly Googled, what's a bad environmental problem in my neighborhood? But I think it's so important to talk about these ecological issues because they often get overlooked and you go your whole life not knowing there was a waterfront in your neighborhood, which is a really common story all over New York City.
Okay, and I know a lot of the projects you've worked on, they focus on, I guess, on the Flushing Creek and examine the urban infrastructure. And can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so a lot of development is happening in Flushing right now and in Willets Point and Corona areas along Flushing Creek and Flushing Bay. Yeah. So really, if we don't kind of activate now and get involved as a community around this waterway now, they're pouring cement and we're never really gonna have a chance to have our voice be heard by these developers and landowners that are building right now.
Okay, wow. And I also want to ask you about Queen's Soup. Yeah. Yeah, from my understanding, it's like a potluck dinner, or.
So Queen's Soup is actually coming up this weekend on April 15th, this Sunday, from 3 to 7 p.m. at the Flushing Meeting House. But soup dinners are originally started by Detroit Soup. Back in 2010, but it's a micro-granting, crowdfunding community dinner. So the way that it works is people pay $5 to get in and they get access to this great potluck dinner sponsored by local restaurants. And then they vote for one of 4 community grassroots projects they think will have the biggest impact, in this case on the borough of Queens. So then all that money that we raise at the door is awarded to the project that has the most votes. So each year we raise about $1,000. This is the 3rd year we're doing it.
Nice.
So 3rd time's the charm, and I hope we make a whole bunch of money for grassroots projects in Queens.
What series or projects or events are you most proud of in all your social work that you've been able to do?
I'm really proud of all the work that I've done because really just any type of interaction I have with people, all my work really involves people in community, but it's very easy to see other people get inspired. So what I've learned from doing this type of work is just to keep doing it. And I mean, it's really funny. People will text me every week hey, can I recycle this? Do you know? So I mean, even little things like that, you start to see how just your state of mind can impact other people to start thinking differently.
That's amazing. So do you think that all the work that you've been doing, you think it's starting to inspire change in the community?
I don't really think it is. I see it as, which is really exciting to get that type of feedback.
Okay, well, Cody, thank you so much. It was an honor having you here. Thank you. And tonight, you guys might know, Hofstra students might know him as one of their professors, but Mario Murillo is also a documentarian, humanitarian, and journalist who often travels to Central and South America to cover stories on sociopolitics. He is currently in Colombia working on an assignment, but the Shoot for Change team was lucky enough to speak with him last month here at Hofstra University. Take a look.
I've been a journalist, I'm a researcher, a media activist. I've worked in community and public radio for the better part of my professional adult life. Most of my research work has been in Latin America and particularly in Colombia, and I focused on the role of indigenous communities and how they use media and how they use communication in their organizing and their mobilizing and their struggle for human rights and territorial rights and things like that. I was born in New York. My parents are from Latin America, Colombia, my father, my mother was from Puerto Rico. And having lived in Latin America, in Venezuela and Colombia when I was a young person, 8th through like 11th grade, so those were formative years for me, and I started seeing things that I hadn't, experienced before, and I felt that those experiences really shaped the way I saw the world. And that was kind of an inherent part of my upbringing, is seeing things differently and wanting to share things differently in my eventual work. I've always felt that my role as a journalist was better served going to where the microphones weren't present, where there weren't cameras paying attention, because very often you get to see how people live and you get to understand the dynamics of public policy, about issues of police and community relations, about issues around environmental concerns, about local development issues. You don't get those by sitting there at a press conference of police commissioner, etc. You have to go into the communities to feel that. A lot of the work that I've done in Colombia and the human rights crisis that I started covering years ago, we started seeing more attention being paid to it. It's not because of the work I was doing, but it was perhaps the snowballing effect of more and more people paying attention to it. One of the things that makes it really powerful for me is that for them, communication is a natural order of things for their communities, and that radio and their video production activism work and their website, their online activism is an extension of the kind of communication that they've been doing for generations. The tools don't make the communication's already there. It makes them stronger, but the community has already been strong, had already been organized, had already been struggling around many issues, and that just facilitated those processes. So the strength of the community is ultimately what's going to matter. I think working in this kind of media production where you're immersed in the community and you're trying to tell stories that are going to ultimately make a difference, it's affected me because personally, in the sense that I try never to take for granted the things that I'm about to confront. I never go into anything with assumptions. And I think working in the communities and doing media that is produced by and for and about the communities, it brings up so many surprising things. Precisely because of that, it makes me want to do this stuff more and present and work alongside people who are trying to tell their own stories through their own voices, as opposed to having people outside telling those stories. Mass media has a great potential to and it already has impacted the way we see the world. The question is, how do we use it to make it a better world?
Now, all of us here know that there is no shortage of talent here at Hofstra University, and these students prove it. They are members of various literary and performance clubs on campus that are dedicated to spoken word performances where poets perform their deeply personal work and tell stories about their lives. Here to perform spoken word pieces and poetry, here are Rosario Navalta, Julia Baldini, and Abigail Shepard.
What's in a name? My name is Rosario Marie Lopez Navalta. It is traditional in the Philippines to carry your mother's maiden name. I used to see my name as baggage. As salt water filling my lungs, my name lead on my tongue, cotton in my mouth now. My name is the thunder I learned from my mother's stories. Shaking the sky to make monsoons, filling my lungs with mouthful after mouthful of ocean and sand, and it's the mouthful you cannot chew, and that you cannot parcel out like land in order to swallow whole. My names are islands, each of them connected by the ocean that swallows me whole and comforts me, giving me a home in every single one. And I hope my name has you tripping over syllables, has you abandoning your English and takes you away from your tongue, the tongue you know the way a riptide will drag you out to sea. And I hope it burns going down when you finally manage my name. I hope it rips at you and splinters you the way I've splintered myself to make me easier to handle, like millions of islands is something y'all thought you could handle. My mother gave me my name. My name is a prayer and a saint, and I carry my mother's name the way she carried me for 9 months, the way I carried the shame of being the only Asian Pacific Islander kid in a private Catholic school in Texas, the only kid with a mom's accent who was thicker than my principal's damned head, so instead of Spanish class, I had ESL, like the humiliation of having a second-hand tongue and not understanding my grandmother when she says she loves me, like I can't feel it through the phone, like the ocean, like shame as my first language, like being able to speak 2 colonizers' tongues better than the way my mother says she's proud of me, like being the best at spelling because I didn't have a choice, because my name is 24 letters long and they still don't think I can read because of all the generations I carry in it, like my name is about generations of us taking everything they throw, the shit, the bones and all, and letting the ocean take it away and turn it into salt, into sand, into something we can hold, remembering all of the excuses for forgetting how to say my name, remembering there is more America in me than there is the ocean, remembering the salt on my tongue, my mother's name, the taste of humiliation, the violence of not knowing how to say I love you, of wishing my name were easier, this history easier to swallow, as if it weren't an ocean, as if I haven't been choking on salt water since I was 5, and my mother for the first time in her life was ashamed of the way she said I love you, my child, anak ko, mahal kita. My name is about pride. Don't you forget it.
Groceries list. Items for a rich life. An apple, because it's said to be sweet, to taste good. Lots of sayings around. Rice and beans, to feed the kids, Granny and Uncle Lou. There are others, not just you. Chocolate and vanilla, to make a cake. It's for fun's sake. 2 water bottles, to keep the flower sap flowing. Life must go on. Like a virgin, definitely not by Madonna. Do not. Honestly, you are free to do everything with your body. It is indeed your most unique, beautiful, and vivid place on earth. Don't you ever feel pressure to do anything because it's the moment or it's cool to say such. Sex. In this society, what all people think about is sex. Sex is cool, sex is fine. If you don't have sex, you're a loser. Still that age and never had sex, what are you waiting for? Nothing, I'm just taking care of my body. When I'll be ready to do it, I'll do it. If not, bye. And I mean that. I do not feel miserable. I am really honest. Respect yourself. Do what you want to do. Virginal cry. Being a virgin doesn't mean that you're less experienced or you're missing out life. Consent. I'm sensual in my weird way. I'm fierce, awesome, awful, awkward, in my own manners and pace. Deal with it. Believe it or not, I'm having quite a nice life. I shake my body to Ciera songs, dance samba all night, watch Courtney romantic movies. I believe sex is a marvelous act of Mother Nature, God bless, when it's mutual and truly felt. Sex must be beautiful. But there is so much more than sex, a concept not stressed enough. And I'm telling this because I'm sick to hear some people thinking that folks who are not romantically involved, sexually active, or simply are trying to figure out what's their sexual identity are not living the time of their life. So wait. What's pleasure if not waiting? It's waiting.
In a bookstore I spend too much time in, a cover I've never seen before. Comfort women. Pictures of Japanese women in provocative poses litter the cover. As a noun, we know what it means. Another form of violence women's bodies used to benefit men, shame women, synonym slut, synonym hooker, synonym prostitute. But in that moment, in my place of privilege, I see a rallying cry. Comfort women. Somewhere, a young girl too young to be a mother, raising a daughter alone on one minimum wage, offered to babysit, to make dinner, offer a hand, comfort women. This is where we help. Another woman, bed-bound, wheelchair-bound, feels the movement doesn't want her in it because she can't attend the protests when all the photos from women's marches show able bodies walking for miles amplify her. Think of the disabled, comfort women. This is where we help. A woman walking to the store, a dress and long hair, her voice gives her position, attacked for not being woman enough. Take her side, fight for her. Separate gender from genitals and fight for all women's bodies. We walk together. Comfort women. This is where we help. Muslim woman on the subway. A man takes her hijab and calls her terrorist. But who is the real terrorist when she is afraid to go around her own country? Chase him off. Cover her. Walk her home. Comfort women. This is where we help. Not every battle can be fought in protests on the Washington Mall, in front of Donald's New York City phallic symbol. The revolution is day to day, happens all the time. Band together, work together, walk together, protect women, comfort women, comfort women, comfort women.
When we come back, we'll show you a young man in Queens making short films and documentaries about his community.
Plus, we'll be interviewing Benedict Deroux, a well-traveled photographer who photographs the people society has left behind. We'll be right back.
Hey, look, it's those guys. Are you good to drive?
I'm fine.
How many did you have?
I should be fine.
You should be?
Go and step out of the vehicle for me.
See ya, buddy. Good luck. So turns out, buzz driving and drunk driving, they're the same thing, and it costs around $10,000. So not worth it.
Noe Garcia is a young man living in Queens who dreams of being a filmmaker. Inspired by the community he has found in religion and his local church, he's creating documentaries to show the world how much they've helped him. Here is Noe in his own words.
Mi nombre es Noé García, soy de Guatemala y tengo 26 años. Llegué a Estados Unidos en el 2009. Este país de alguna manera te brinda mejores oportunidades que en mi país propio. Mi situación en Guatemala era bien difícil. La considero que en ese entonces estaba en una extrema pobreza. Yo no veía ningún futuro y es aquí donde he ido aprendiendo, he ido aprovechando todas las oportunidades que la vida me ha dado aquí en Estados Unidos. Yo estoy estudiando en St. John's University, este es mi tercer año. ¿Y por qué estoy estudiando en St. John's University? Es porque los vicentinos, que es una comunidad religiosa que se dedica a ayudar a los pobres también, de alguna manera me interesé yo en ellos y ellos en mí para poder discernir una vocación y llegar a ser sacerdote en el futuro. Que es algo también que, aparte de la fotografía, me gustaría dedicarme a mi vida completa como sacerdote, porque creo que no hay mejor alegría que ayudar a los demás. Entonces, los vicentinos para mí ha sido una pieza fundamental en mi vida. Creo que sin ellos yo no podría estar casi a un año de sacar mi licenciatura en filosofía. Entonces, para mí eso es grandioso. La pasión por la fotografía para mí empieza desde los 12 años, para ser exacto, cuando uno de los vecinos llegó a tomarle una foto familiar a mi familia. Entonces yo vi esa cámara y me llamó la atención y en algún momento pensé, ¿por qué no en un futuro dedicarme a la fotografía también? Yo no fui a ninguna escuela, fue viendo a través de videos de YouTube, cómo configurar una cámara para poder tomar una fotografía, cómo usar una cámara prácticamente. Entonces lo aprendí a través de viendo videos y hasta ahora sigo viendo videos porque yo creo de que siempre hay algo nuevo que aprender. Yo siempre he creído de que no hay mejor maestro que enseñarse a uno mismo, y cuando uno realmente le apasiona algo, uno va a buscar los medios para poder aprender. Mi pasión por la fotografía de alguna manera es motivado por otros fotógrafos, así como Sebastião Salgado, un brasileño que ha dedicado toda su vida a la fotografía. Y el trabajo de él es simplemente enseñar la realidad de otros países, como por ejemplo el África. Él enseña mucho la necesidad que esta gente tiene que pasar por la pobreza. Y su trabajo es dedicado más que todo a los pobres, porque los pobres no tienen quien los represente, y él cree de que puede ser como un abogado por los pobres. Para mí fue interesante de que Shoot4Change de alguna manera se interesara en mi historia, y que la verdad en ningún momento yo pensé como compartir mi historia con algún grupo u organización, ¿no?, que se dedique a compartir estas historias que pues ningún medio se interesa de alguna manera.
Bénédicte Deroux is a French photographer who has traveled the world from Mexico City to East Africa, following human rights issues and exploring the lives of those ostracized by society. She's here with us today to talk about what she's learned from the people she's photographed and why she chose to chronicle such heartbreaking stories. Without further ado, here's Bénédicte.
Bénédicte, thanks so much for being here with us. My first question for you is sort of just a general, how did you get into photography in the first place?
Well, I was studying graphic design in France and Belgium, and when creating graphic design project, I had an ethical issue using other people's image. So I started making my own image. And then I started exploring with art photography when I was directing models and controlling the message. But I realized what I wanted was to tell people real story and not made up words. And that's why I traveled to Peru and I did my first photo documentary project about street kids in Lima in 2005. And that's when I became a documentary photographer.
That's great. Is there an individual photograph or a series of photographs that you might be most proud of?
I don't have a favorite, and I'm proud of all of them. I try to document stories that I really care about, so they all touch me in one form or another. And I'm proud of the series on the women of Casa Xochiquetzal, which is a unique shelter for elderly sex workers. It was a huge commitment because I worked on that photo story for 10 years, and I continue to. And I published a text image book, which I feel is a nice achievement. And with the Global Obesity Project, I was touched by how the person I interview and photograph were willing to share their suffering, their anxieties, their insecurities with me, more with all the discrimination they are facing.
Yeah, I was going to say most of the subjects that you photograph are of people that are marginalized or ostracized in some way. What's important to you or interesting to you about expressing those specific stories through photography?
For the Women of Casa Xochiquetzal documentary, I found that this project incorporates many of the issues I care about, like women's rights, sex trade, violence against women, vulnerable groups, and the invisibility of the elderly. I feel like these women are judged based on prejudice, so by documenting and sharing their story, I wanted to show them in a different light, and I wanted to dispel the discrimination against them. And when I learned that in Uganda, in East Africa, a bill had been proposed suggesting that people could be killed for being gay, I couldn't believe it. I wonder how a gay person would survive in such a hostile environment. And I wanted to meet the activists and the closeted gay and wanted to talk with them and document their bravery on how they would fight against such injustice. So.
Wow. Well, how do you sort of go about finding the people that you want to photograph or approaching them about the project?
It's not always easy. For example, for the story on Casa Xochiquetzal, it was an assignment for a women magazine. And so after the assignment, I contacted the director of the shelter directly, and she introduced me to the woman. And for the story I did on global obesity, it was a self-initiated project. I did a lot of research on the internet on obesity, and I came across this doctor in New York who specialized in bariatric surgery, and he contacted me directly and he introduced me to his patients. And other people, I found them on the internet, like Donna Simpson. I contacted her directly through Facebook. And
well, that's great. There's sort of a debate in photography sometimes, or a discussion that I'd like to get your opinion on. What is your opinion on how to sort of walk the line between taking photographs of someone that you're interested in, or making sure it's not exploiting them in any way, making sure that that line isn't crossed?
You have to maintain a respect for the person you are photographing. For example, there is a portrait I made of Donna Simpson for the Global Obesity Project that I could see some people would say it could be exploitative. But it is not, because Donna and I together agreed on this portrait, so there was a clear understanding between us. So they doesn't need to be this fine line, because before I even start taking any photo of someone, I will meet the person and I will clarify everything and I will explain my intention, why I'm doing this documentation, and where it will be published. So I make clear everything.
Well, that's
and
great.
I also make clear that there won't be money compensation, because it's journalism, so it's very important.
Right, so, well, quickly, what can we expect from you in the future?
I team up with a writer, and we are doing a project on women issue in Mexico, but I'm not ready to talk publicly yet about it, but stay tuned.
Okay, we will absolutely do that. Thank you so much for being with us here. Hofstra students, you can learn more about Benedict's work on Monday, April 9th from 4:30 p.m. to 6 p.m. in Breslin Room 106. And now, Professor Zapata is a professor of Latin American literature here at Hofstra University. He focuses on Hispanic poetry from modernism to the present, and has also played the Peruvian box drum since he was a child. Here to show you the history and culture behind this instrument is Professor Miguel Zapata.
Hello, I'm Miguel Ángel Zapata. I'm a professor of Latin American literature at Hofstra University in New York. I love literature, I love poetry, I love the arts. The books that I have published, which are books of poetry, books of essays, interviews, translations. I live for that. I play percussion instruments. This one that is called El Cajón, which is a wooden box with a hole in the back, and it makes amazing sounds. To play El Cajón, you don't need to know music or to read music. You have to have rhythm. If you don't have rhythm, you cannot play El Cajón or any percussion. I can play all kinds of music with El Cajón. Creole waltz, Afro-Peruvian music, Peruvian polkas, marineras del norte, which is a rhythm from the north of Peru. It's very famous. You dance it with a handkerchief, and it's beautiful and happy, where it requires a certain kind of a dress, an attire that is appropriate. It's usually colorful. The gentleman wears a hat. Sometimes the girl wears a hat as well. But it's a flirtatious dance that you have in a mood. You have to make the girl like you through the dance. And it's all slowly getting you closer to the girl until the final conquest, or both agree to be together.
Here to perform on the Peruvian box drum is Miguel Ángel Zapata.
Ciera de Trujillo tiene su cuna, la marinera, la belleza de su baile por ser peruano es tradición. Al golpe de la tarola, guitarras, palmas y cajón, despierta en los que la escuchan ganas de bailar y profunda emoción. ¡Qué buen relojito trae! Resuena en el coliseo una voz que dice: fuerte las palmas, se inicia la competencia y las tribunas responden ya, anuncian, llegó la reina, parejas listas a bailar, que empiece la marinera, luego paso da al concurso oficial, que toca la banda, las faldas se lucen, fuego de palma y muchos también, pañuelos al aire muy blancos de luces, todo es un mensaje de amor y de fe, y la voz amiga que alienta y anuncia, es la que se encarga de fortalecer la sana amistad que debe existir y la calidad en el competir, logrando el triunfo alcanzar, pañuelos al aire batiendo están, y a grata voz dice sin cesar: ya tenemos ganado.
When we come back, it's the moment you've all been waiting for, an interview with the founders of the Shoot for Change movement. Stay with us.
Antonio Amendola, Andrea Rinaldi, and Dario Fatello didn't set out to create an international organization. They were just three like-minded activists who wanted to show the world how corruption and bureaucracy had stifled relief efforts in their home country.
But their endurance and ambition has sparked a movement inspiring everyone from all corners of the world to share their stories that matter to them, to shoot locally and act globally. And we have a trailer for an upcoming Shoot for Change project right here. Take a look.
Tenemos un problema de embarazo adolescente, ¿no? Y ese problema se combate con educación, se combate con planificación, se combate con información.
Y yo quedé embarazada porque tuve un abuso sexual. A mí me violaron, yo tuve a mi niña a los 14 años, a los 15 años. A mí me violaron desde los 10 años. Yo viví con eso. Sí, yo quería no tener a mi niña y morirme juntos con ella. Yo no quería vivir, yo quería, morirme juntos con ella. Yo hice todo lo posible para que mi niña no viviera.
Well, Antonio, Andrea, Dario, thank you so much for talking to us today. So I guess our first question would be, what do you think about, and please correct me if I mispronounce this, Max Pelagatti, right, one of your collaborators. What do you think of his project Mom Too Soon?
Oh, thank you. Well, I think it's a great project. It's currently in the pipeline, and he's currently finishing his editing, and what you've seen is just a preview, and it's going to be exciting just to see the final result. It's a project that is carrying out long-term about teen pregnancy around the world. This is the first chapter. It's tackling the issues in Ecuador, and it's a project about social issues, a series of very serious social issues that is very badly treated by mainstream media. Because this is what we do. We try to bring back the spotlight on those issues and those stories that are seldom considered remunerative by mainstream media.
Right.
And by not being considered remunerative, they don't have access to mainstream media. And if they don't have access, they get forgotten or they vanish. And this is a very serious social issue. It's about discrimination, it's about sexual abuse, it's about violation of women's rights. And we are really fortunate to have Max Pelagatti in our ranks telling these very strong stories.
I guess this is a question for all three of you. What got you guys interested in doing humanitarian work or non-for-profit?
When we started Shoot for Change, it was just in the aftermath of the L'Aquila earthquake in Italy. There was a major earthquake that 9 years ago destroyed the central part of Italy. And we started telling those stories, and we decided not only to tell that story, but to keep back in those places, years after years after years, to tell everybody that the situation wasn't changing at all. I mean, there were people still suffering without homes. It's a very cold place, and we try to tell the stories. When you do that, something start changing. You start engaging with the local community, and then you see that telling those stories is important because it really brings about a social change. When you start telling the stories, you engage the community. It's yourself that changes, because at the end of the day, after the entire day telling those bad stories and their stories, you cannot say anymore, I didn't know, I didn't realize, I didn't think it was that serious. So your perception on life and on your own community changes. That's what we do.
So most of you guys must be traveling the world because of all of this, and if you guys had to pick one, what would be you guys' favorite assignment, each of you?
A last assignment we had in Africa and Senegal is one the most enriched me in some ways. But I would also like to say that we do, beside of assignment, we do other things like workshop for people in our community or for refugees that are in Italy. And this kind of work, giving back to them and to the community what we know and try to empower other people to start doing photography or video making. It's another thing that I really enjoy and willing to do.
Are there refugees who come to Italy from Senegal, or?
No, in general, we had several workshops in the last year for refugees in Italy, like journalists that had to leave their country because of persecution and this kind of thing, and we try to keep them updated on the changing of our jobs. And
on that note, I mean, we do these initiatives in Rome. We rented a few years back the the location of our headquarters, and we call it the House of the Storytellers. Is the place where, among other things, of course, we give free classes to those who cannot afford it, to refugees, to homeless people, and we try to rebalance the educational issues here, because everybody has a right to access a good education. Of course, we are only teaching what we do. It's photography, visual communication, creative storytelling, and so on and so forth. You have no idea how rewarding this is. Yeah. I mean, we are discovering amazing talents.
What about you? Favorite assignment that you've worked on?
Oh, I have the possibilities to work about the mental disease in Chiapas. And it was a very difficult work for the mental disease in Chiapas is a very big problem. Without doctors, without any assistance to the people. And I switch off any prejudice about the mental disease, and I work a lot about it.
Well, where do the three of you hope to see Shoot for Change go in the future? Can you talk a little bit more about ambitions for the movement going forward?
Well, the strength of Shoot for Change is total flexibility. I mean, whoever joins Shoot for Change on a totally voluntary basis, because this is the miracle and the strength of Shoot for Change, everybody is 100% a pure volunteer, can adapt to Shoot for Change and can tailor Shoot for Change around his needs. I mean, if you need a platform where you can just share your stories, you found it. If you need a platform or a group of friends or people that can help you carrying out your project, you got it. If you want to work on a collective way, you got it. So I want to strengthen this model and to see many more chapters like this one, this fantastic chapter of Shoot for Change New York, grow around the world. And I would like to replicate the model of the House of the Storytellers, a place where everybody can go and have their project seen by professionals or amateurs alike, and feel part of a community of storytellers.
Right. Well, there you have it from the founders of the Shoot for Change movement. Thank you guys so much. It was an honor. Thank you guys for coming.
Thank you very much for us.
Thank you.
All this is overwhelming for us. It's the greatest reward.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Well, we're coming to the end of our show, and we hope that through learning about Shoot for Change, you have been inspired to share the stories of your community. And don't forget about the Shoot for Change New York conference coming up on Tuesday, April 10th. So many of the artists and activists you saw here today will be speaking about their work right here on Hofstra's campus. For more information, contact the Hofstra Cultural Center at 516-463-5669.
And if you want to get involved with your local Shoot for Change chapter, visit us at shoot4change.eu or find us on Facebook. Once again, I'm Sean Morgan.
And I am Mabruk Ahmadine. Thank you again for tuning in, and see you guys next year. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Hey, thank you, guys.
A ver esa